Welcome to the Sharpe Way. Yes, Larry Sharpe. I'm here again saying hi. Another awesome Tuesday. Yes, it is Tuesday, which means it is last weekend today. That's right. Last weekend today, where I grab a couple of clips from the weekend shows, comment on them, talk about them, give you some insight that I hope has some valuable insight. Maybe be a little bit funny. We'll see. But actually show you what they're trying to say. I usually grab something from CNN and something from Fox. Try to balance them out if I can. I try to do that to make it cool. Guys, look, if you can, please like and share and comment and let people know that this is on so they can come by, make comments, say hi, all those good things. If you could like me on Facebook, it matters. I know, look, it takes 5 seconds to like me on Facebook. Please go do it if you haven't. And go to the Sharpe Way Show, not just Larry Sharpe Libertarian. Head over to Sharpe Way Show, do that. Sharpe Way with Larry Sharpe, like that page. Also, head over on Twitter, like that too. And of course, follow me on YouTube and subscribe. It's a big deal. It matters if you do this. It is going to help us all because then more people get to see the cool stuff that we're doing. Absolutely, more people will see us. Howdy, Mr. Dark Prime. I'm glad that you are here. Well, look, I want to start, if I could, talking about, what everyone's talking about. If you look online all this weekend, heavily was about either the bailout bill, right? Or the spending bill, or whatever you want to call it. It's the debt bill is what it actually is. The debt bill is the biggest issue. The debt bill is a huge issue, is what people are talking about, but also the oversight of it, right? That's a big deal. And also the damage that the coronavirus is going to be doing. That's an issue we're concerned about also. A lot of people are worried about that. And I get it, as they should be. It is a big deal. It's a big issue. I know some people tell me that the president is also going live. Too bad. I already scheduled this. And I guess the president and I will go head to head, I guess. I'm more exciting than he is. I'm going to give you something that actually makes sense. He's going to give you a bunch of rhetoric, so you should be watching me instead. For those of you who don't watch me right live, it's okay. Watch me later. It's still a good time. You can watch whenever you can. Let me grab this one piece if I could. This is Fareed Zakaria. See if I can find it real fast. He's talking, and again, Fareed is brilliant. I mean, that's true. Fareed's brilliant. He's very smart. The problem is very often, while he's really smart, he is an ideologue. And what I mean by that is he is very much concerned about how this looks, and his own personal agenda is kind of an important piece for him. So that does sometimes cloud his vision, if that makes any sense. It does definitely sometimes cloud his vision. Let me see if I can grab this piece here now. So thank you guys for watching. I really do appreciate all the time you guys are spending with me. All righty.
A rash statement by the head of the European Central Bank caused Italy's worst, even as we're just beginning to confront the magnitude of the shock caused by this pandemic.
And there is.
We need to wrap our minds around a painful truth.
Painful.
We're in the early stages of what is going to become a series of cascading crises,
yes,
reverberating throughout the world. And we will not be able to get back to anything resembling normal life unless the major powers in the world can find some way to cooperate and manage these problems together.
Big problems popping up here, guys.
The first phase has been the healthcare crisis in the world's major economies.
Yes.
The next phase is the economic paralysis, the magnitude of which we are only just beginning to comprehend.
He is right. I'm not just hammering him. I'm telling you, the guy's brilliant. He's just off sometimes with his ideology. But he's actually super smart. If you want to hear data and understand the details of what's happening, he's one of the best. I've been watching Fareed for years, probably 5-10 years now, or I don't remember. It's been a while, maybe 5 or 10 years. I've been watching him for a while. He is very savvy. The issue is he's just clouded by ideology, but he's often right in what he's saying. So I'm not really hammering him. I'm trying to cover a most important piece. I brought this up a month ago, 2 months ago. The damage that people are going to be, that's going to be happening, is going to be economic on top of it. And people say, well, you only care about money. No, it is going to affect us at a deep way that some of us are never going to recover. And this goes to what Mr. Prime is talking about people starting violence. I really hope that it does not go to violence. I really hope it doesn't. But I think you see people are getting upset, right? That people are getting upset. They are getting angry. They're going to sit home, put themselves in their own head, do all of that stuff, and it's going to be a problem. But I hope it won't be violent. I'm just trying to let you guys know this is serious stuff.
In the last 2 weeks,
listen to this.
2 weeks, America lost 10 million jobs, exceeding the 8.8 million total jobs lost over 106 weeks during the 2008 to 2010 recession.
Our last recession, we lost 8 million jobs in almost 2 years. Here, we lost 10 million in 2 weeks. Mind-blowing. How do you recover from that? Right? But not only do you recover economically, how does the cycle? Do you remember if you know, those of you who were around at that time, if you were working, do you remember how down everybody felt? How horrible everybody felt? You remember how literally families broke up during that time? I'm not joking. If you were there, you saw it. Businesses went out. I was one of them. I had to shut my office down, fire my employees, and pack my bags. Who the hell wants that? This affects people. It affects everybody. It's more than just you care about someone's 401k. Fareed gets this, and at least I was talking about it.
But this is just the beginning. Next up will surely be the danger of countries defaulting. Italy entered the crisis with the highest level of public debt of the Eurozone countries and the third highest in the world.
Hold on. Are people having trouble hearing this? Let me just make sure. I feel like people may have trouble hearing. Let me do it again. I apologize.
To confront the magnitude of the shock caused by this pandemic.
Yes.
We need to wrap our minds around a painful truth. We're in the early stages of what is going to become a series of cascading crises reverberating throughout the world.
Absolutely.
And we will not be able to get back to anything resembling normal life unless the major powers in the world can find some way to cooperate and manage these.
He's literally saying we can't get back to normal life for a while unless we make some real changes. What I've been talking about for months. This is serious. This is going to change a lot of people.
Problems together. The first phase has been the healthcare crisis.
Absolutely.
In the world's major economies. The next phase is the economic paralysis.
Yes.
The magnitude of which we are only just beginning to comprehend. In the last 2 weeks, America lost 10 million jobs, exceeding the 8.8 million total jobs lost over 100.
We lost more in 2 weeks than we did in 2 years before.
But this is just the beginning. Next up will surely be the danger of countries defaulting. Italy entered the crisis with the highest level of public debt of the Eurozone country.
Defaulting. We're talking about defaulting. We're talking about countries not paying their debts. Defaulting. What happens? Think about the damage. The suicide rate in America was about 100 people per day before this happened. We've just lost 10 million jobs in 2 weeks. Okay, we're not going to see that now. We're going to see the fallout in 2 or 3 years. We have to start acting to make something happen. We simply have to. There is no way that we cannot do that.
And the third highest in the world. The country's debt will skyrocket now as it spends money to combat the economic
and doesn't bring anything in.
Next come the explosions in the developing world. So far, the numbers of infected have been low in countries like India, Brazil, Nigeria, and Indonesia, probably because they're less linked by trade and travel than the advanced world. In addition, these countries have tested very few people, which is keeping their numbers artificially low. But unless we get lucky and it turns out that heat does temper the virus, these countries will all get hit and hard.
Yes. And then imagine how it's going to work when when countries like India get hit even harder. What happens when countries in Africa get hit even harder? The damage that there's going to be is going to be crazy. The amount of damage is going to be crazy. You have people who are living literally hand to mouth. You know, we live paycheck to paycheck in America. Many people do. People talk about that, and they're right. We often live paycheck to paycheck. But if you don't work for 1 day, the average American is not going to, starve for that day. There are about 40 million Indians who will. That's a lot of people. That's 5 New York cities that could actually starve if they don't work for one day. They're shutting that down. It is really a problem. I mean, this is really a problem.
Even if the quarrel between Saudi Arabia and Russia gets resolved, at this point, demand for oil has collapsed and will not soon recover.
Now we're dropping
Consider
oil.
what that means for countries like Libya, Nigeria, Iran.
What are they going to do when they can't make money?
Where oil revenues make up the vast majority of government revenue, the vast majority of the economy. Expect political turmoil, refugees, revolutions, crackdowns, maybe terrorism.
He just said, expect refugees, revolution, crackdowns, terrorism. Yeah. Yes. Oh, Larry, you care about his 401k. No, I care about increase in terrorism, in scammers, in refugees, in all of those things. That this is what happens when, of course, but even worse, there are already cyber terrorists, cyber hackers, phishing scams, all kind of stuff. It's just going to increase. Why? Because people are more desperate. As people get more desperate, they will do worse things. It's what they will do again and again and again. That's the problem, right? Again and again and again, people are getting more and more desperate. There are going to be more people doing bad things. We are going to be unhappy. Freed's right here. He's totally right. These are all the bad things going to happen, of course, but the only answer for him is government. But at least he's right in what he's saying.
All of this might happen on a scale we haven't seen for decades. The world has entered this pandemic with 2 challenges. It is awash in debt, government and private. With a total global GDP of 90 trillion, public and private debt add up to 260 trillion.
Did you understand that public and private debt is 3 times our GDP? This is the bubble. The bubble in 2000 was the .com. The bubble in 2008, 2009 was really basically real estate. The bubble now is just debt. Well, how did we get in all this debt? Could it be the Fed? Yes. Yes. The Fed is literally causing this. And what are we going to do to fix it? I don't know. More debt. Because what could go wrong with adding more debt into debt? What could go wrong? So you're already at max for your credit cards. The creditors are calling. What should you do? I know. Get more credit cards. That's literally what we're doing. Get more credit cards. He talked about countries defaulting, revolution, terrorism. Do you think we can't default? We're going to be $30 trillion more once this is done? Of course. It's a problem, and we aren't seeing it. And I'll tell you, some of you people who think that I'm okay because I got a government job. When I ran for governor, I was very clear. I said, there's a problem with these pensions. The private sector got out of the pension business years ago because they realized it was unsustainable. They got out of it. Government's still in the pension business. You think that's going to stay when we got debt this big? You think because you retired from New York State, you live in Florida, making $300,000 a year because that was the plan the union gave you, you're going to keep that? That's not going to happen. How about now? You get ready to retire. You put all your money into your pension. You think that's going to stay? Nope. Pension bomb. Sorry. Ain't going to happen. I told you this already. It's a problem. Most of you didn't believe me. I told you it's going to happen. I thought it wouldn't collapse for 10 or 15 years. I thought maybe 10 years it might collapse. It might be 5 now. It might be 5 now. And for those of you who were listening to me when I was talking about it, I said I was prepared to negotiate now, to fix this now before it's unsustainable, to give people something so it doesn't collapse. That's what I talked about. And if you have a big pension, and if I was the governor, last year I would have been talking to you about how we're going to make it work, how we're going to work on this, because you don't all of a sudden collapse and your life doesn't change overnight. Remember something. Governments always lie until they can't anymore. They always lie until they can't. That's how it works. For you guys who liked Obama, he lied. Bush, he lied. Trump, he lied. They all lie. You guys like Trump? Sorry, he lied too. They always lie until the last minute. It's going to happen again. Yeah, Garrett's saying, look at Sweden. Sweden is not using aggressive measures. Neither did South Korea. But they still had a pretty good response to the virus. We have to see if it's going to work. We, of course, have to use Iron Fist because that's all we know, right? That's all we know. There we go, Shelly. Thank you. We've already seen an increase in hacking attempts. Yeah, absolutely. Of course. People are trying to find ways. Hackers are sitting home now teaching their cousins how to hack too. They've got tons of a workforce. Look at that. It's amazing. Not just that, there's a bunch of people who physically aren't in the office now. Not a bad deal to break in, not steal some stuff, but steal some information. Of course. So yes, more and more this is a problem that we just haven't seen, and we feel as if it's here for us. It is. Absolutely.
The world's two leading economies, the United States and China, have public and private debt to GDP ratios of 210% and 310%, respectively.
Oh my God.
Now, this would all be manageable if not for the second challenge. This crisis is occurring at a time when global cooperation has collapsed.
Yes.
And the traditional leader and organizer of such efforts, the United States of America, has abandoned that role entirely.
Now, this piece I disagree with, right? I love Fareed, as I watch him every time. I love him, but this is where he goes back to his, America should be the police of the world. We shouldn't be leading by telling people what to do. We should have led by showing people how to do it, right? I know some of you don't like Reagan, but the idea I loved of him is we should be the shining hill, or the shining city on the hill that people look for. We should have been the ones to act like Sweden and South Korea off the bat to motivate our people, local control. Americans can do it, get up there and do it, and then everyone followed us. Not by going, let's make rules and let's have monetary policy. That's what got us here in the first place. That's what's made this happen. The World Bank and the Fed, and that's what made this happen. Instead, let's lead by example. That's what we should have done. That's the entire issue, right? Look, I know a lot of you people who are hardcore libertarians always yell about ending the Fed. I want to also. Most Americans think it's the only way to solve the problems, nothing else. Now is the perfect time to say, Fed, save us again. By the way, since you gave us so much money, we should audit you because you're printing money. And now we can begin to audit the Fed. Auditing the Fed is the first step to ending the Fed. We're not just going to end the Fed. Too many Americans think it is the only way to solve our problems. They don't get that it is the problem. They don't understand it. And we're not going to convince them by yelling at the Fed. But they will want to audit because they believe that the Fed is part of the government. They believe that, absolutely. The issue we should be doing is not leading by shaking our fist or ordering or by signing documents. We should be leading by example, and we have not. We have failed. I really wish we hadn't done that.
Last month, the G7 meeting was not even able to issue a joint statement on the pandemic because the US refused to sign anything that did not label the disease the Wuhan virus. A dispute.
This part right here drives me crazy. I actually like statements. I like joint statements. There's no violence or force in statements. Let's do a whole bunch of joint statements. They're nice. I like telling people what's safe and what's not. As I've said more than once, I think the government should be more like the fire department, right? When we're in trouble, come on in, we're calling you, come fix, help me save my house. When I don't need you, give me some tips on how I should be safe. I love those ideas. Let's make government more like that. I think these are wonderful. And we couldn't do it because even that was political. Even that was political. We had to make even that political because that's where we are. Everything is black and white. In my corner, Republican or Democrat, even if people are dying, it doesn't even matter. It's embarrassing.
That sounds like something that comes out of high school. The centerpiece of any global effort would have to be close cooperation between the United States and China. Instead, that relationship is in free fall, with each side deflecting blame on itself
Yep.
by blaming the other. The follow up to the G7, the G20 meeting, was also a dud. Even the European Union has been late to recognize the seriousness of this crisis.
This goes to the point that everyone who likes all these treaties, you should be seeing how useless they are. You should be watching right now and seeing how useless they are. Oh, we want to bomb somebody? We are ready to go. We want to invade somebody? We are ready to go. We want to make some monetary policy to hamstring some other country that we can loan money to? We are there. Oh, my God. Oh, there's a pandemic. Now what do we do? Yeah, this is why we don't need to be in NATO, because NATO isn't helpful for something like this, which is what's actually happening. The Soviet threat is not why we should be in NATO. That's over, right? If NATO could do this, I might be okay with NATO. It can't. We want to bomb people? NATO's on board. Yeah, we're good. But how about we want to help people? NATO has no idea what it's doing. Of course it doesn't. It's not made for that. These are made for empire building, not for helping people. Not at all. I mean, it's right. The virus is targeting people be paying pensions. Older, right? We're getting pensions. Older, absolutely. It absolutely is, right? Oh, yeah. Cuomo broke the Teamster contract. Yeah, of course. I think the issue you're going to find is we will break our promises when there's no money and when we want to, right? We just if Cuomo can't get the votes that need the votes, he'll break the contract. I didn't want to break the contract, Shelley. That's not what I was talking about. I was talking about negotiating openly in good faith, realizing there's going to be a problem, and doing something that will be tiered so you could see it happening. If there had to be lifestyle changes or anything, you would see it long in advance so that we could still honor the people who put the money in and leave something available for people who are still here in the States. We could have done that. It would have taken multiple years. As I said, it would have taken me 4 years probably to negotiate this. But once you negotiate one or two unions, all the rest would have come in line. I said, aha, that's fair. I don't love it, but I don't hate it. The other answer is what's going to happen now? Pension bomb, pension, goodbye. I'm not joking. I told people this. They laughed at me. Pension, goodbye. Apply for pension insurance and hope you get it. If you're lucky, you get 1/3 of your pension. Imagine somebody who's living their lifestyle now at X dollars, whatever, $120,000 a year. And all of a sudden you get a third. You go from $120,000 to $40,000 a year. Your life is turned upside down overnight. I was trying to avoid that. What if you were preparing for that lifestyle? You've been working for 10, 20, 25, 30 years, and you're ready to retire, and you know what your pension's going to be. You're setting yourself up for that. Nope, gone. I didn't want that to happen, Shelley, and that's what I see happening right now. I really hope we don't do that. I really hope we don't. All right. Let me see if I can grab a couple of people who are I know, putting their hands out here. So yes, we'd be better off if they respected us and not by bombing them, Roy. Yes, not by always going to war with them. Yeah, by instead using our example and showing them this is how you react to a crisis without destroying the entire world around you. Absolutely, 100%. Thank you. And yes, I'm trying to lead. Thank you. Thank you for being a leader. I'm a right leader too, not just an effing one. Thank you. All right.
Most serious crisis in its existence. A rash statement by the head of the European Central Bank caused Italy's worst stock market crash in the country's history.
Yes.
Now, what would be achieved by greater global?
So NATO couldn't handle it and then crash the stock market. Well done, NATO. Rocking and rolling. That's win-win, NATO.
Cooperation. Well, since so much of the containment strategy involves travel, it would be far more effective if travel bans and advisories were coordinated. During the 08-09 recession, central banks and governments worked with each other to help contain and dampen financial.
See that? He went back to that. We should get together for monetary policy because central banks, they can save us. He is the mainstream, guys. He's the mainstream. People believe that central banks, which is our Federal Reserve, we don't have a central bank. I've heard people say that more than once. We don't have a central bank. What's the Federal Reserve? A central bank. But they say all the time, people believe this is the way to success. There is no other way but this. All I'm saying is there are plenty of ways besides this. Plenty of ways. Absolutely. And yes, we do need manufacturing power back. I completely agree. This has taught us this. You're totally correct, right? If we actually had more people making stuff here, we wouldn't literally be buying ventilators en masse from China. Literally buying them from China at higher prices. Horrible.
Danger. If countries like Iraq and Nigeria explode, the cost in refugees, disease, terrorism would all make us wish we had tried harder to manage their fall.
Look, I get it, Edward. NATO needs America to operate. Fine. Then maybe there shouldn't be a NATO. What's the reason? Why do we require a NATO? For what? Are we worried about the Russians coming across? They already invaded Ukraine. What do we do? Nothing. So why do we have NATO? They're going to invade Poland? I doubt it. The Germans and the Poles is going to stand there and let it happen. The Russians can't even finish off Ukraine. What are we worried about? It's not required. Just isn't.
If the richest countries pool funds and share information, that will speed up the arrival of treatments and
that's
vaccines.
Absolutely true.
And when the time comes to reopen economies, coordinated action on trade and travel, for instance, would give us all the biggest bang for the buck. The problem we face is broad and global, but unfortunately, the responses are increasingly narrow and parochial. For more, go to CNN.
Absolutely. And this is, I love that he's saying this. And again, he's savvy, smart. He's listed all the problems accurately. He absolutely has. The problem is his answer is always just more government, more big guys getting together and doing stuff. That's always his answer. And my problem is that can't be the only answer. It can't be. There needs to be protocols in place so that we can immediately jump up and take care of these problems right away. And we're not doing it at all. And this is the part, again, that I know I've said 1,000 times. I have to keep saying it because I want us to be better at this. I want us to be able to say when the next crisis comes, and there will be one. In fact, there's going to be another, who knows when. There absolutely will be another pandemic. There will be something. Again, of course there will be. How are we going to act, right? What are we going to do, and how are we going to act? And if we don't figure this out now, we're never going to figure this out. I mean, we need to be in a better position, and it can't just be shut down the economy every time something bad happens. It simply can't be. So, yes. Thank you. I'm trying to be smart and also get smart people who are talking too. Absolutely. Now, this is a different side. This is the side of what was the answer, which is the $2 trillion bailout, and how people are upset. This is Fox News Sunday with a panel here talking about this. Nancy Pelosi talking about her issues, all these things. Let me see if I can grab this one real fast.
It's called the House Select Committee on the Coronavirus Crisis. We need to ensure those dollars are spent carefully and effectively.
Because that's what government does.
Witch hunt after witch hunt after witch hunt. And in the end, the people doing the witch hunt have been losing, and they've been losing by a lot.
House Speaker Nancy.
So Nancy Pelosi says we have to make sure that it's spent effectively and efficiently, because government always does that. We don't want to go to cronies because that could be bad, right? That's how it is. And then Trump just goes, well, it's about me and I got away again. Wow, what's wrong with both of you? The reason why she's so mad is she's afraid that her cronies aren't going to get the cash. She's worried that only Trump's cronies will get it. So she's like, well, my guys, I got to get my cut of the dirty money. I got to get my cut too. That's why she's upset, and she wants oversight. Not to make sure it's done effectively or efficiently. That's irrelevant to her. That's not true. That's a lie. To make sure that her cronies get their cut. That is why she's concerned. Trump knows his guys are getting their cut. He's already good. So he's just attacking her, going, you guys can't beat me. Your guys get nothing. Only my guys get all the cash. And I know that makes some of you upset, but that's absolutely true. Absolutely true. So, yes. All right. Somebody here. Seen NATO in person. Yes. Not the awesomest place. That's for sure. Absolutely not the awesomest place. Absolutely. So, yeah, look, NATO had a purpose during the Cold War. I get that. It had a purpose. Absolutely. But we don't need it anymore, right? The Soviet Union, that threat is done. It's absolutely done. Absolutely. And Ukraine, one of the reasons why Russia is so angry, there are many reasons, but one of them is because we've tried to expand NATO. Russia sees NATO as an enemy. Why would Russia see NATO as an enemy? Could it be because we created NATO as an enemy? That would be the reason. So they're right. I'm not pro-Russia here. I'm pro don't piss off other countries for no reason, regardless of country, Russia included. So we could just get out of NATO, not expand it, and Russia will be less angry. Doesn't mean they'll be our buddies, but why poke the bear? Literally, the bear. So yes. All right. Yes, I'm watching CNN News and Fox News, and they're all fake news, and that's why I'm here. So yes, they're all fake news. All right. I do think there is a deep state issue here, and I don't mean this like a conspiracy type. I mean that people who are part of our government, they like the cash flow. They like the back and forth. They like validating who they are. They've spent their careers doing this. Could you imagine people who are NATO specialists, and there are tons of them, people who are specialists with the World Bank and the Fed, if all of a sudden that became not valuable anymore? All of a sudden we weren't part of that world. Yeah, Kevin, there's a lot of people out of work. There's a lot of people without influence. There's a lot of people without power. I completely agree. Absolutely. So I'm not sure if anything's planned here. All right. We do need strong leadership. I agree. And that's the issue. I actually don't mind other organizations existing internationally. Let them. Totally fine. What I'm worried about is when we're part of organizations that force us to do one of two things: set monetary policy of the central bank with other countries, and two, bomb people. I don't want to be bombing people, right? If they attack us, of course we can strike back. I don't want to be bombing people. And sadly, this is, or flexing our muscle on their borders. Same thing to them. They get worried and think we're going to attack. The best way, have organizations pop up, and then when they need us, we show up and show them the way and they copy us. Why can't the U.S. be what it's full of? Consultants. Be a consultant. Yes, you've got your local organization. We're America. We do things right. Let me show you how to do it. That's not where we are now. I wish we were there. We'd be much better off if we were there. We really would be much better off if we were there. All right, let me keep going if I can.
Nancy Pelosi setting up a new oversight committee, which President Trump promptly dismissed as more partisan politics. And it's time now for our Sunday group: former Republican Congressman Jason Chaffetz, former Democratic Congresswoman Jane Harman, and Guy Benson of Fox News Radio. Congressman Chaffetz, what's wrong with Speaker Pelosi setting up a committee on the coronavirus? Congress has passed $2 trillion in taxpayer money to throw out to hopefully respond to the virus. Doesn't some congressional oversight make sense?
Watch this.
Well, there should be congressional oversight, but there already is an oversight committee. I used to chair it.
See?
There are also other committees like financial services and
so
others.
Why do we need this?
This seems premature. It seems like an aggressive move, if you will, to give some additional powers.
How does that commission
been
work?
able to even execute and start on this? And I would remind people that the 9/11 Commission, I think, started something like a year after 9/11 actually.
Yeah, so let's wait a year after, Jason, Mr. Brilliant Guy. Let's wait a year after everyone's already stolen the money, then we'll have some oversight. That's what this guy just said. He said, let's wait a year after, then we'll have some oversight and we can figure out who stole the money. Really? How'd that work in Iraq? Yeah, it didn't. How'd that work in Afghanistan? Yeah, didn't. Billions of dollars gone. Just gone. We can't find it. Yeah. How'd that work then? How'd the 9/11 committee work? Oh, yeah, didn't. 10 years later, no one did anything? After the surveillance state has already been set up in our world, now let's have some oversight? What the hell are you thinking? Terrible idea. He's just another partisan hack. The left and the right, they're just partisan hacks. This guy's the same thing. Yeah, I was an oversight committee. Let's just oversight a year later. Why would you even think something like that, right? Why would you think that, right? Look, gentleman here is talking about the Federal Reserve. It's not the majority of our problems is poverty. That's not true. What it does is the wealth gap. Just so you get it, poverty is going to exist whether we have a World Bank or not, right? That isn't the issue. The issue we have with the Fed more than anything else is it destroys wealth, right? That's the critical aspect, meaning that it makes the wealth gap a whole lot bigger. How? By creating a boom and bust cycle, which is what the Fed does by default, by creating bubbles, right? The first bubble was the .com, the second bubble was the real estate, and the third bubble is debt. Now, the Fed isn't directly responsible for each of those. Things get together, obviously, to make that happen, right? The stock market is a casino, and most people think that it's somehow government run when it's just a casino, right? So that's another whole part when you mix those two together. Oh my God, right? And because of that, that's also part of the reason for the real estate bubble. Also, because the government decided it was going to make sure everybody had a house and home ownership went up, so they made bogus loans. So that's also a reason why that happened. But the idea is it does that. How do I know this? I've covered this 1,000 times. I'm glad you asked again. I'm happy to cover it again. Before these crashes happen, there are always people who know what's going to happen. The example I give constantly is the one where our congressmen who sold their stock a couple months ago before this happened because they saw it was going to happen, right? So when they see it, the top financial advisors of the world tell their heavy hitters, hey, something bad's going to happen. Get liquid, cash out quick. They do. That is one of the reasons why in America, we were slow to respond. Most of the heavy hitters in America knew that a recession was going to hit. Most thought it was going to happen in December after the election because most governments pump money during an election year into the economy to ensure it doesn't crash. Most do that. Trump too, so did Obama for 8 years. They kept pumping money in so it wouldn't crash. That's what they did. So they assumed it wouldn't happen until after the election that Trump was elected. That was the assumption. They didn't see Corona coming. When Corona all of a sudden became a bigger deal, they realized, oh my God, this is going to crash the economy. This will pop the bubble. So they became liquid. What happens when they become liquid? Well, they become liquid, the economy crashes. Now the people who are hurt the most, working poor and middle class. Middle class and working poor have to sell their assets to pay their bills because they can't pay. Well, who can buy those assets? The wealthy who are liquid. That's how small stores become franchises. Small buildings get bought up and become large apartment complexes. Every single time, that's the constant cycle. So that's helped by the Fed. Number one issue, the Japan. Most are middle class or upper class with little poverty. They've also been stagnant for 30 years. How do I know this? Well, first off, the birth rate is negative. They're not happy. They're not marrying or even having sex, which I'm not saying sex is the only thing, but they're not having relationships like that. I'm not making this up. Do your own homework. The government is desperately paying people to have babies. They have a brain drain, particularly female brain drain, that we can't take in fast enough. If we in America had a better immigration policy, we could probably take thousands upon thousands of Japanese women, particularly, but also men, but heavily women, every month. We could take thousands of them. They pour to us as fast as they could. Massive brain drain. We aren't taking them as much as we should, so Europe is taking them also. So Japan is stagnant. They're unhappy. Their population is dying. Not where I want to be, my friend. I know. I literally lived there for 4 years. So I know the Japanese economy very well. So thank you for that, though. I appreciate it. So, yes. We've talked about biological warfare. Yes. This is funny, Missy. I love this concept, right? How are we going to function this? We have to be able to function here. Absolutely. Let me keep going here if I could.
Actually happened. So yes to oversight, but we already have an oversight committee. It's the second largest committee in all of Congress, and it spends nearly $10 million. And yet Pelosi wants to have another committee already. It doesn't make sense.
No sense. A year later.
Congresswoman Harman,
he can't believe what he just
Pelosi said the other day, as President Trump fiddles, Americans are dying. And one could argue that Washington was so caught up in February with the impeachment trial that slowed the response to the coronavirus. So can you understand why President Trump wouldn't exactly welcome a congressional committee, another congressional committee set up by Nancy Pelosi?
I suppose I can understand it, but
course you
what's
could.
important is that the $2 trillion
Dodge.
rescue package,
I can
which
understand,
blows a hole
but
for
Dodge.
generations in our deficit and debt, be managed properly.
Because Democrats care tremendously about deficit and debt. Never. Yeah. Jane made that's why it's former, right? When she was a congresswoman, all she cared about was deficit and debt, right? No. Making it maybe, but she didn't care about it. Now she does.
And that's what she's trying to do. Yes, there is an oversight committee chaired by Carolyn Maloney, who was elected to Congress when I was in 1992. She's very able. But Pelosi's trying to focus on a way to tunnel all the brain cells on this one problem. Whether she'll succeed, I don't know. But it is important that there be oversight. $500 billion in this $2 trillion bill are managed by the Treasury Department, and they may go to cronies.
Did she just say, and they may go to cronies? So there's a chance they won't? This is all about cronyism. Guys, I want to be very clear about this. I talked about the way to set this package up. The way to set this package up is very simple. Allow people to not pay their bills and bail out banks directly. It's still debt. It's going to happen either way. But then no cronies get money. People don't have to pay their bills for 6 months. You can survive. As Missy said, figure out how to survive in this environment, retool your business, retool your life, right? You're not paying your debt. You're not paying your note. You're not paying your car note. You're not paying your credit cards. You're not paying any of these things. You can survive. The banks lose money. You write them a check directly. We're going to anyway. We're going to give them free money. No cronies. Why? I'm the only guy who thought of that? Of course not. Of course not. They know you could do that. Why wouldn't you do that? They can't reward cronies. They can't make sure their guys get their cut. They can't do that. This is not fighting about whether the money goes to the people. That's a blatant lie. She just made that up. That's not true. This is about, will my cronies get enough? That's the issue. Will my cronies get enough? And if they will get enough, well, now we're good. Now we're good. Big government is all about picking winners and losers. But if you just said, hey, America, here is basically a debt holiday for X months, 6 months, 4 months, whatever is the right. Here's a debt holiday. Don't pay any debt for this amount of time. People could keep their jobs. People wouldn't have to fire people. People could keep their homes. You can keep your houses. You don't have to, you're good. You could keep this and survive in place and keep moving forward. And you bail the banks out directly. You spend actually less money. Why? No problem with applying for unemployment insurance. No problems with people who's going to administrate this. You know those small business loans that they were putting out? Yeah, most banks didn't actually do the small business loans because they didn't have enough information on how and when to do it. So they didn't do it. Well, if you do my plan, there's no need for this. People don't pay their bills for X amount, whatever that is. We figure out how to move forward and we learn. Will some people still fail? Yeah, of course. Of course. But now the government isn't picking winners and losers. We are in what we're doing. And not just that, if some people fail and we watch them fail, we can pick them up. Well, Larry, we don't pick them up. That's not true. If you look at what's happened in this crisis, people thought nobody would step up. We're stepping up. Again and again and again, we are stepping up. Yes, my friend Mike. Definitely the answer.
Hopefully they won't. But as Pelosi says, where there's a lot of money, there can be a lot of mischief. And it matters that this money get out fast and it get to the people who need it. And just one more point, Chris.
Who says that she's not one of them? Why in the world would we think? That could be a lot of mischief. And you know who's going to stop it? Nancy Pelosi. She's going to stop that because she's been, head of the House for how many times, for how many years? And corruption is over, right? No. Of course not. And again, this isn't just Pelosi. It wasn't any better when Boehner was in charge. It's the same thing. Their cronies get the cash, and that's what matters.
Blame game is not helpful. This virus isn't targeting us by our political registration, just as terrorism doesn't. And there was a terror attack in France today. 5 people were killed or wounded by some crazy guy carrying a knife.
No, that's impossible. There's gun laws in France. So that can't be any terrorism, right? There can't be any attacks, right? No one can die. Yes, I'm being facetious. Wait a minute. So in France, there was a knife killing 5 people died. Wait a minute. That's impossible. They have gun laws there. Huh. So you're telling me somebody wanted to make a terrorist attack, couldn't get a gun, they got another weapon? So it isn't the gun's fault? Shit, Democrat. I'm not sure that's true. I don't know. I'm starting to doubt her.
He better be watching what's going on in the world at the same time as we are making this relief package work.
Well, let's talk about some other subjects. I just mentioned impeachment.
Look, Deborah, you're bringing up a valid point also. I'm sorry I'm bouncing around a little bit, but people are bringing up different pieces. The idea of being non-essential, how dare anybody, government, governor, president, I don't care if you love Cuomo, think he's the best guy in the world, love Trump, think he's the greatest guy in the world. Neither one of them should decide what's essential and what's non-essential. You guys are all here, right? What are you, all my non-essentials? You're my non-essentials, right? Trump has deplorables. I have non-essentials, right? You're all my non-essentials, right? Remember something, the most important piece of all of this, for everyone who lost their job or businesses collapsing, any of those things, they go, well, it's because of the coronavirus. It isn't. It isn't. You lost your job or your business because government shut the economy down. That's the reason. Government shut the economy down, decided you were not essential. That's the important piece. I mean, who's to say what's essential? If you've been paying attention to me talking about it all the time, what happens if my toilet's backing up? Is the plumber essential now? My toilet's backing up. Do I want sewage in my house? Right? Maybe that's essential. Right? What if I have a child who's on the autism spectrum and they require a certain toy, that they don't have the toy, they will harm themselves. And those of you who have special needs kids in your life know there are certain kids who, wherever they are on the spectrum, they will literally hurt themselves if they don't get things they need. Is that essential now? I have an idea. Who cares? It's not your decision on who or what is essential. Give people guidelines on how to act. Show them what the data is. Allow them to function. As a Marine, I had to function in any environment. Chemical, biological, from a tactical nuke back then in the 80s. We were about tactical nukes, not strategic ones, which destroy everything. But tactical nukes, we're about that. How do I go back, get decontaminated, get back in the fight again, right? That's what they taught us. And if you guys got some gray hair like me and you in the military, you went through the exact same thing I did. You know what I'm talking about, how to function in that horrible environment. All they ever say is, this is a war, this is a war. Why the hell do we keep surrendering? Let's get back in the fight. Let's move our economy forward. I don't know what we're doing, right? I don't know what we're doing. We're just perfect trying to throw money at everything. It's how we're going to solve everything. And in reality, we solve nothing.
And speaking of that, late Friday, President Trump notified Congress that he is firing Michael Atkinson, who is the now former Inspector General of the intelligence community. And yesterday, President Trump left no doubt about why he did it.
Yep.
He took this terrible, inaccurate whistleblower report, right? And he brought it to Congress.
What? A whistleblower be brought to Congress and the president? What? What? You think this guy was coming out of oversight? Oh, wait, he is. You think you'd want a whistleblower to stop? Oh, you would. What? Yeah. This is a thing that's throughout our entire government. We care about whistleblowers, then we punish the whistleblower. And we wonder why no one comes forward. And again, this isn't just Trump. This is Trump. It was Obama too. Same thing. They don't bother at all trying to save or assist or help the whistleblower. At the end, Obama will be nice and they'll commute their sentence. They've destroyed their life, shown everybody that if you go up against whoever is the guy or gal in charge, you'll be punished. No one supports you because they don't want to be punished. And now the guy who did his job is to bring it to Congress. He didn't impeach Trump. He brought the Congress. Congress impeached them. You're mad at Congress? Punish Congress. No, you punish the guy who did his job. I wish it was just Trump. I wish I could just blame Trump. I am blaming Trump. You people who are Trump supporters get mad at me. But I'm also blaming Obama, who did exactly the same thing. Punish whistleblowers, act like it, and then talk about how you care. One thing I'll give Trump. Trump openly doesn't care about whistleblowers. Obama played a game like he cared. He pretended that he cared, right? Which is actually less honest. At least Trump's like, nope, don't go against me. I'm hammering you. At least he's all open about it. I'll give him that. But either way, terrible. You should say, well done, whistleblower. Thank you. Well done, guy who saw a problem. Well done. Keep doing it, right? I talk about this in business often. Where do you have your greatest chance for growth and to get better as a business? From people who complain. When people complain, there's an opportunity for you to do something different or better, or even to a group of people to not service because they don't work well with your organization. Complainers, whistleblowers, are good for an organization. It makes it become better, or makes it change and adjust, or not do things it shouldn't do. This is a good thing. Sadly, we just don't see that. Terrible. So, yes. I'm bringing this up because I'm in New York City. Billions missing under de Blasio? Of course. Of course. People don't know this. New York City's budget is about $90 billion. Yeah, bigger than most states. Just the city. Massive, massive budget. That our mayor is clearly one of the worst mayors in the city. Worst mayors of the city ever, and one of the worst mayors in the country. And you might go, my mayor's bad. I'm sure I got you beat. This one, I got you beat. Thank you, but I appreciate it. Absolutely. So, yeah, there we go. Thank you, Karen. You had to consult because you don't know and you had no answer. Yes, this is how this bailout's working. The reason, Karen, is the bailout's not actually for you. The next one will be, right? There's going to be multiple bailouts. If you think there's only one, no. Oh, no. Remember, the main reason why we delayed our response wasn't because Cuomo's didn't know any better or Trump didn't know it. That's not the reason why. It was to set people up so Cronies can win. That was the first reason. Then the rest, we all bumble through the bad idea of having, centralized control. That was next. But now this first bailout, the reason why Pelosi's so angry is she wants to make sure her people get their cut. Trump's got it covered. His people will get their cut. This is it for you, Karen. The next one, when we're complaining and when there's 15 million jobs lost and when each side thinks they might lose the election over it, then they'll throw you some money. So that's coming later. You're just going to have to wait. That's all. All right, let me keep going here.
Guy, I guess it was just a matter of time before President Trump fired Atkinson, wasn't it?
Definitely. This was not a surprising development. It was also announced and deployed in the middle of this crisis. So I think under other circumstances, it would probably be the biggest story in Washington.
Oh, but now it's nothing.
It's sort of getting short shrift.
Smart move.
I think it's interesting because you're seeing predictable responses, mostly along party lines, but not completely. Senator Susan Collins from Maine has been critical of the decision. The Inspector General from the DOJ, Michael Horowitz, also critical of this decision. Although it's interesting that we're talking about inspectors general broadly. To the previous topic on the panel, in addition to having the House Oversight Committee already in existence, there are also inspectors general to oversee the $2 trillion and the response of the administration.
Who he fires? Well, we already have this system in place. And clearly it works so well because corruption is over. The system, the guy, he literally says, Chavez says, you know what? We'll check it out in a year. After the money's spent and we can't find it, then we'll have some oversight. Wow. And then this guy's telling the truth. Yeah, there's an inspector general, but as soon as he says something, we fire him. That doesn't really work, does it? This absolutely isn't working at all. And it's embarrassing. The only thing I'll give Trump is he doesn't care. You have the guys who are saying he doesn't care. You're right. He's like, I'm fired. You're my political enemy. You're fired. Bye.
Part of the reason why I think Congressman Chaffetz is right, this smells a bit of politics.
Well, speaking of politics, let's talk about the presidential election because primaries are being moved back.
Yes.
The Democratic convention
might be moved
from
to
July
absolutely
to August at the earliest. And there's talk about whether there could be changes because of the November election if this goes on.
Who knows?
Whether there might need to be more or exclusively mail-in voting. President Trump was asked about that this week.
Trump is against mail-in voting.
No, because I think a lot of people cheat with mail-in voting.
They cheat with mail-in.
People should vote with ID, voter ID. It shouldn't be mail-in voting. It should be you go to a booth and you proudly display yourself.
How backward is that? How backward is that? Literally, people we're not supposed to be gathering, right? Because you will literally die if you have a certain age and have certain conditions and you get COVID-19, you're going to die. A horrible death. That's going to happen. And he goes, no, it's fraud. There's that much fraud in mail-in voting. There's that much. Stop. Absolute garbage. He should be embarrassed that he said that. But he's not. He doesn't care at all. He's like, I don't care. I want to make sure I win. And I know my people, they'll show up no matter what because they're loyal. The Democrat, Biden, they may not show up. Let's keep them home. Isn't it sad how not one of our leaders actually gives a damn about us at all? Think about that. Nancy Pelosi, she doesn't care about whether the money gets to us or not. Otherwise, she would have just given the money out. She makes sure it gets to her cronies. Trump doesn't care about us getting the money or not. He's got it covered. He's going to give it to his cronies. Got it. Cuomo, my governor of New York, he's on every day. Talking about his brother, getting sympathy votes for his brother. Oh, how awesome he is. Takes no responsibility that he's been running New York State for 10 years. And every problem that New York State has, it is his fault. No responsibility. Just says, you know what? I'm going to take care of myself and I'm going to become more popular than ever. No one actually cares about us. Isn't that sad? But you know who does care about us? Us. How do we know that? You are watching this happen now. You are watching people show up and help. You're seeing it happen. We are doing it. We can do it. The best part about all the bad horribleness of this virus is that many of us are realizing that people will help us, that our neighbors actually do care, that many of them will show up, that they will deliver packages for us, that they will help us go shopping, that they will give us some things that we need, that they will not try to hurt us is a good general rule. Some people are jerks, absolutely, but they were going to be jerks no matter what. But a lot of people actually do care. I say it all the time. When you add government, you by default remove community. You can't just remove government because then there's nothing there and people suffer and people are in trouble and there's pain. But if you add community first, you can then begin to remove government. The only advantage of this crisis, and this was a terrible crisis, it's going to hurt us for years and people are still going to die. The only good thing I hope is that we see that when we thought people wouldn't show up, they actually did. When we thought community wouldn't matter, it actually does. And if we can bring community back into our world, then we can remove some government. Because remember something, community can care because they know you. They are you. Government can't. It's impossible. You are so far away. You are so far away. I know you guys who love Cuomo or love Trump think he cares about me. Neither does. Pelosi doesn't either. It should be obvious. They didn't prepare for this at all. And when it happened, they were slow to act. And now they care more about their own cronies than everybody else except us getting the money. And the stuff they put together, the stuff that gets down to you, Karen, doesn't work. But the checks that go to big business, those are cashed. Those are cashed. But yours, we'll see. Terrible.
Congressman Chaffetz, you know that there are going to be
Chaffetz
some
will be full of it.
Democrats,
he's a hack.
and certainly Joe Biden,
Come on, tell me some
now
lies.
that he's going to be the Democratic
Tell me some
nominee,
garbage.
who are going to accuse the president and Republicans of voter suppression there.
Well, that's not true. Donald Trump is exactly right.
Of course he says that.
Submission of this via mail is just ripe for fraud and abuse.
Since
Nancy
when?
Pelosi introduced H.R. 1. It was her first bill.
All right. Do you know how most of our veterans overseas vote? Mail. That's how I voted when I was overseas. 1988 was the first time I voted. You guys know how old I am now. 1988 was the first presidential election I voted in, and I voted by mail to a San Francisco post office, Air Post Office. 1988, I voted by mail. 90, 92, I voted by mail. 96, I voted by mail. That's how our veterans. So what you're just saying is vets don't get to vote. We'll send you overseas to die for a cause, but vote? No. You don't get to vote. Go over there and get your legs blown up and come back with PTSD. That we're fine with, but don't you dare vote. What a horrible thing to say. How about the elderly? How about people who are getting hammered by the COVID virus now? How about people who literally, the older people who get hit by it and have been sitting here stuck in their home for months and now become immobile? How about them? Can't vote. Why? Because it's fraud. When? You made that up. Literally, Jason, Trump, you made that up. That does not exist. That's a fantasy.
The 116th Congress. And I remind people that Mitch McConnell said that this was purely a power grab.
Yeah,
he wants to nationalize these elections. I do believe that you should present yourself and identification to be able to vote. And there's a way to pull that off and start working on now. No doubt elections are going to be different, but you should authenticate the vote. That's what you have to do. And when you go to mail-in ballots, you can't authenticate it to the same degree you could if you present yourself.
To the same degree.
Yeah. Can I respond?
Congresswoman Harman, your thoughts about mail-in voting?
Couldn't disagree more. I come from California, 40 million voters, statewide mail voting. I've done it myself since leaving Congress because I'm basically based in Washington, where I run the Wilson Center. Still proud to be a California resident. Oregon, Washington have this. You could do it in spots in the high density cities. There's 7 months between now and the election. States better get on it. And the other point to mention is that although Jason is right that by the Constitution, states regulate the time and manner of elections.
I don't mind that.
The national government, through the Department of Health and the DHS, has been helping states manage cyber intrusions in their voting systems, and states are taking the help. So the federal government could be very helpful here, and we need to have a fair and free election, not just for president, but for a third of the Senate and the entire House.
Nicely done, guys.
Guy, you get the final comment, and less than a minute. Your thoughts about mail-in voting? I mean, it does go on in a lot of states around the country.
Probably not.
What if we were to go more exclusively to that? If social distancing is still an issue, come November?
Maybe it is.
Well, I think ballot harvesting is one of the concerns here when it comes to election integrity. I'm in favor of contingency planning. I think we haven't seen that in Congress.
Oh my God, contingency
still
planning.
Can't vote remotely in the middle of an emergency. I think that's nuts, frankly.
Yes.
So looking ahead to November, yes, let's be careful. Let's think about this potentially as a one-time solution.
A nuanced
for some
answer?
states, but it should not be dictated top down from Washington, and there should be real safeguards on fraud.
Hold on. Did somebody on the mainstream news, Fox News Sunday, actually say should not be top-down dictated, and there was a nuanced response? Yay! Thank you. Someone finally did that. Absolutely, guys. I brought this up because, again, I want you to see what the mainstream media is saying. This is what drives me crazy. We are just not getting this at all. Let me grab some comments. John, of course, yes, it is a huge problem, but people don't know it. This is a great way of getting people to understand that and to think about the Fed as a general rule. Let me tell you a story real fast about that real fast, if I could. When it comes to the Fed, it's a true story. I'm teaching a class in New York City, and I'm teaching a leadership class, and the room is filled with educated professionals. That's who it's filled with, educated professionals. Most have college degrees, all are professional. If they don't have college degrees, they have professional certifications. So it's all professional people, men and women. Youngest is probably 27. Oldest is probably 50-something, right? In that area. During a break, I never talk about politics unless it's during a break and someone asks me. And every once in a while they ask me. Some people know I've run for office before, so once in a while they'll say something. So one person was talking about 2008. And someone said, boy, I'm so glad we had the Fed to protect us and save us after the crash 2008. And someone looked at me like, what do you think, Larry? And all I said was, do you guys know that the Fed is a private bank and not part of the government? That's all I said. Didn't have an opinion, just asked that question. About 25 people in a room. Not one of them knew that. Educated, adults, professionals. Not one of them knew that. In fact, many of them said, that's not true. Stop, Larry, it's not true. I said, you have your phones, Google it. Just Google it now. They go to Google. 13 seconds, 15 seconds later, oh my God, he's right. Yeah. I said, did you know that the Fed just basically magically prints money out of nowhere? They went, no, it doesn't. No way. I said, there's your phone. Google it. They Google it. Oh my God. Why do I tell you this story? while the Fed's a problem, the vast majority of Americans don't know it and don't believe it and wouldn't hear it if you told them. We have to get them to audit first. That's the big deal. Yes. So, yes, I agree. There were changes. Absolutely. That might have been, Dan, when it comes to the bubble, very often that pops the bubble. Sure, right? That's what pops the bubble. But the actual bubble was much more about bad loans and the Fed. So, yes. Yes, I agree, Roy. I wish we had done better. We did a terrible job. We did a horrible job with this. We weren't good. And no one else stepped up, right? You can be mad at Trump for not being the leader you want him to be. I get it. Did anybody else step up? Did a governor step up? Did a senator step up? Did somebody else step up? We waited for Trump to do something. And up front, him and Fauci said, don't worry about it. Don't worry about it. Get out. Get liquid, guys. Don't worry. Nothing to see here. Don't worry whatsoever. Sell your stock. Sell your stuff so you can make money later. That's what actually happened. So, yeah, I wish something did happen. So, Daniel, I'm not sure nobody's having sex, Daniel. I don't know who you're talking to. You might want to change your friends. I'm just saying. I'm not sure nobody's having sex anymore. But the Japanese surely are struggling. That is absolutely a fact. The government actually is paying people. If you have children in Japan, they literally give you cash. I mean, it really is that bad. Yes. So, yes, spending 10 million to oversee how 5 million is spent is exactly how government goes. Yes. So, yes. Oh, yes. You live in Tokyo, Rob. So you know that this is an issue. Absolutely. You get it completely. And that's how that works. So anyway, yes. I will try to not have a stroke. Thank you so much, Dan. I'm glad you care about me. That's something that I'm very happy. Good. All right. There is no call in for this one now, guys. I'm sorry. My studio is actually closed. So I've got to do it here because I am not in I'm not in the studio right now. So thank you, Roy, for your support. I'm in. Yes. All right. Look, this is a funny thing that you're talking about, Roz. I hope that 12 million undocumented workers, non-citizens, are not voting, right? But I do get your problem. What the last guy said, the savvy guy at the end said, just because I want people who are in trouble to be able to vote via mail doesn't mean I want everybody who's not a citizen voting, right? Voting is for citizens. That's what it's here for. If you're an undocumented worker, that means you are a citizen of another country. Please vote in that country via mail. I'm okay with that, right? If you're from whatever, Ecuador, vote. Do they have elections in Ecuador? I assume they do, right? Vote by mail in Ecuador. I'm totally happy with you voting in the country to which you are a citizen of. Please do that. So that's what I want to understand. I do not have a problem with this, but yes, will it be hard? Yeah. Will it be tough? Sure. Roz, yes. Tough. Doesn't matter. Tough. We gotta then work it through. I think you're totally right. It will be difficult, people showing up with licenses, as issuing licenses, to not let them vote. So let's find a way. I'm okay with that. Let's find a way. But just because I don't want people who aren't citizens to vote doesn't mean I stop citizens from voting. I hope that makes sense, right? I want citizens. You're a citizen. You should vote. Period. You don't have to vote. Obviously, it's not a requirement. It's a right. Please vote if you're a citizen. All I'm saying is, does it mean that because I don't want non-citizens voting that I stop them? That isn't the right answer. So yes, here's the best part about auditing, Lauren. Here's the best part. We can't actually just audit them. People don't realize that. If it's a government agency, we can just order an audit. It's a government agency. They're not. So when all of a sudden we say, I'm going to audit the Fed, or was it the first Bush or was it Obama? I forgot what someone said. I'm going to fire the Fed chairman. You don't really get to do that. It's a private bank. It's basically a banking cartel. To be clearer, it's a banking cartel. Absolutely. Yes. So, Shelley, most people don't know the difference between debt and deficit. You're correct. For those who don't know, debt is how much we owe. Deficit is how much more we go into debt every year. So New York State, prior to this, was about $400 billion in debt, meaning we owed $400 billion, and we had a $6 billion deficit, which means that we would go under $6 billion every year, even though in theory we balance our budget every year. That's nothing but a lie. Nothing but a lie. Clinton is very proud of saying, he stopped the deficit, cut the deficit. That's true. I'll give him credit for that. Him, and it was one of the best times where you had a mixed government of both Republicans, Democrats together. Absolutely. Clinton wants credit for, having reduced the deficit. Great. He didn't stop the debt. The debt still was huge, but we'll give credit where credit is due. At least he did lower the deficit. That's an accurate statement. So yes. So, all right. Yes, indeed, we need more libertarians in this world. And Roz, he did. A lot of people did mock him for wanting to ban flights on China. Absolutely. I don't know what this is about, Roz. Help me out. Help me out on that one. All right. Yes. Thank you for you guys at the work. All right. I'm unsure, Clayton, how this works when it comes to digital signatures. I'm not sure. I think we have to work on that piece. It is definitely an issue we have to work on. All right, guys, I want to say thank you so much for this evening. I thought this would be an interesting thing. I hope you like this concept of kind of going through what news items pop up on the weekend and talking about there and sharing these types of things and talking about those things. I hope it's fun. I'm trying to I'm doing AMA on Mondays, this on Tuesdays, guests on Thursdays and Friday, on Wednesdays and Thursdays, and then my clip show, the Stew, Larry Sharpe Way Stew, on Fridays. Hope you guys are enjoying it. Let me know, and I will talk to all of you, I hope, tomorrow.